It's funny to ask the question, what does it mean to be human? I think part of the meaning of being human is this ability to recognize ambiguity in the world and then have to manage ambiguity by what oftentimes is an authoritative disambiguation, some sort of dogmatic recourse to some order that people defer to. It's probably partly because when we hit the world was already going on and there were other people there, and we looked around and we didn't know what the proper thing or appropriate thing to do was, and we looked at what other people did and we did what they did. Dietary practices, religious views, whether those are polytheistic, monotheistic, atheistic, agnosticist, all of these are different ways of disambiguating all of the world's ambiguity, its robustness. If I ask a question like, who am I? It's so odd that as a human, I think unlike other animals, I slide very quickly in between multiple levels of analysis. I can see myself as a person here shooting a video, but at the next moment I can think of myself as a family member here in my house. Or in the very next moment, I can see myself as a U.S. citizen concerned with what's going on in national and international relations. And at the next moment, I can see myself as an organism on a planet that's related to the larger solar system and then even the cosmos. And then I can ask these ultimate questions of, how do I relate to myself? How can I say an expression like, I lost control of my feelings? I mean, are feelings something that are mine? Do I have feelings, or are my feelings me? I mean, am I my feelings, or do I have feelings? I say I lift my leg, but my leg is me, and yet I claim it's something that I have. And this notion of having, of possession, the institution of private property, the lines of possession, I'm not saying they're not in some way enforced. I think we accept that they're there and they are legitimated, they're sanctioned, but they're a kind of authoritative disambiguation because I think the lines of private property are ambiguous. They seem to be deeply ambiguous, and I'm stressing all this, this issue of ambiguity because I think most people don't think about ambiguity. They don't recognize the ambiguity and how they have, perhaps unconsciously, submitted themselves to various forms of authoritative disambiguation. And my guess is that what happens is the more unconscious someone is of their acquiescence to authoritative disambiguations, to various forms of authority lines which cover over the ambiguity of it all, which try to hide other ambiguities, sort of repress those ambiguities. The more that someone is unconscious of the fact that they have succumbed to doing that, the more easily that they can lash out toward the alien other. I think this notion of scapegoating, of wanting a scapegoat. Well, yeah, the scapegoat is kill the heretic. If people sense that their view is a repressed denial of ambiguities by recourse to an authoritative disambiguation, I think what they'll do is they will try to kill all those others who hold a different view. Yeah, the basic strategy here is get rid of everyone who holds a different view, and that way one can prove that one's view is true, right? I think part of the question is life fundamentally ambiguous? And I think that it is. I think that the ambiguity is what makes creativity possible. It's what made emergence possible. Life is emergent because it's ambiguous. Now someone would say, emergence theory, right? This is an authoritative disambiguation. I think partly so. I would have to bite the bullet in there and say, if I'm going to pick my evils, I do think there is a kind of emergence of the self-aware cosmos, and the self-aware cosmos came into being by its own unending struggle with ambiguities and to balance the countless, endless tensions that had to be balanced. The countless, I mean, when we see geometric forms and geometric shapes, I think mathematics attempts to document those regularities in those forms, Fibonacci sequence, all these sort of geometric symmetries and harmonies, their attempts to give us some kind of mathematical representation that it seems like an authoritative disambiguation, and I think there is some value to trying to take order that we discover in nature as our model for harmony. There is something about that. That would include things like death acceptance, where you could see that lots of authoritative disambiguations are flight from death, a sort of denial of death. But I do think to really get at the question of what does it mean to be human, it's to have to reckon with those ambiguities. And as we reckon with those ambiguities, we too often unconsciously fall into authoritative disambiguations, too often seek to kill the other, and we seem not to realize that there is a kind of mystery all around us, and that mystery is the ability to dialectically integrate opposites, to balance tensions. Um, the real question is to always be on the lookout, to be on the safeguard against becoming dogmatic. Uh, and even there, you don't want to become dogmatic about becoming dogmatic. It's funny, it has to get self-reflexive on itself. Okay, thanks.